It's the key. I say this is the key. This is the magic bullet. If you can sit with any emotion that comes up for you, this is the biggest superpower there is.
Hmm.
Because you're not going to run to the drugs and you're not going to run to the porn and you're not going to run to the food. To be able to sit with that and not let it define you and recognize this is a feeling. It's not going to kill me. And this is the type of thing that I wish they taught in elementary school. Now we have generations of kids and teens and adults who can't be with discomfort, and it's causing a lot of issues in our society.
Connected we are, and how divisive removing the humanity of our experiences, because everybody can relate to that, about
Mhm.
fearing not being loved or worthy of love from our care providers. That is really a 5 to 9 year old that is just like, I'm gonna drive this car because if I don't drive this car, we might crash. And so get over, move over. And it's like, thank you and no.
Exactly.
And before we begin today's episode, I'd like to just take a moment to thank you, the listenership, for taking your time and attention to listen to today's podcast. And I have a request. If you'd be willing to leave a comment or review, subscribe, like on whatever platform you're listening to this on, it helps me grow the podcast, the audience, find new guests, and complete the mission of making this one of the most impactful conversations today that we're having as a human race. And without further ado, here is today's guest.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Embracing Human podcast. I am your host, Scott Stone, and I'm here today with a very special guest, Elyse Schunkewitz. She is a holistic and functional psychotherapist specializing in neurosomatics, and we met through a fellow friend, a previous podcast guest, Alina Canner, and once I heard what she was up to, I had to have her on the show, and so without further ado, Elyse, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. I've been really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And when I asked you how to introduce yourself and you said neurosomatics, I was like, this is going to be a juicy one. I think there's
I
there's something so deep there that we have yet as a society to surely investigate, and you in the field of work that you do, tying the brain and the body together, I think is just an absolute home run. So I can't wait to dive into that with you.
Yeah, same, same. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about functional psychotherapy and what that looks like for you.
So I kind of made this up, right? We have the functional medicine world
Hmm.
and we have the psychotherapy world. And obviously, there's a lot more talk nowadays about the impact of nutrition and movement and sunlight and all those things on mental health. But I have always found that a lot of talk therapy, conventional talk therapy, is not very functional in the sense that are you really taking it with you outside of the four walls of the therapy office and implementing it into your daily life? There's so much that we can learn about ourselves. And there's a lot of change that can happen through psychotherapy and the therapeutic alliance and connection and just the skills and tools that you learn. But I think there's a lot of information missing around things like making sure your breathing patterns are really good, which I'm sure Alina spoke about on the podcast or at least talk like briefly mentioned. What's your nutrition like? What's your movement like? Your sunlight, your sleep, your relationships. And then you get into even more specific things around the brain and functional neuroscience of how well do your eyes move? How does your vestibular system work? Do you have scar tissue in on your skin somewhere that's really amping up your nervous system because your brain doesn't understand what's happening in that part of your body? And I'm taking all these different components and thinking about how does this all impact your mental well-being and your mindset and how you move through the world and the sense of safety that your nervous system has or lack of safety.
Hmm.
So that's how I would sum it up.
I love that. There's so many juicy aspects and tenets to what you talked about: sunlight, movement, breathing, and just, I mean, in a way, right? Like in today's society, we're bombarded with information, and yet, how do you say someone comes to you and like, okay, I want to work with you, Elise. Where do you start?
So the biggest thing is really figuring out, obviously, what are their goals? What are they here for? What do they want to achieve? And I tell them nothing is off limits. If you tell me you have financial goals, you have career goals, you have mental wellness goals, relationship goals, I want to hear everything. And from learning about them, they'll tell me about their struggles, what's day-to-day life like. Then I start to figure out what might be going on through different questions. So, for example, I had someone come in recently, and just based on what she was telling me with some of her struggles, I asked her about dental work. Like, have you had any significant dental work? Have you been to some sort of like behavioral optometrist and gotten your eyes looked at? Because for me, a lot of the symptoms she was describing really pointed to maybe having some vestibular issues or cranial nerve issues. So I wanted to figure out, is there something there? That's not so common. It's a little bit rare that that might happen for me, but a lot of times I want to understand, what is your lifestyle like? What are all those things I just mentioned? The nutrition, the sunlight, the breathing patterns, relationships, your career life, your sleep. I want to understand what's going on there. And usually I'll start with the basics of just looking at someone's breathing patterns, talking about their day-to-day life, what kind of food they're putting into their body, just are they getting outside? So I want to make sure there's the foundation, and that they're really grounded in that. And in some cases, I may refer out to people who know more than me, like a functional dietitian or someone who may specialize in more movement, like someone like Alina, who might be able to help me with postural work with this particular patient if I think that might benefit them. And then from there, we're really going around like, what is their goal? What do they dream about? And as therapy always goes, people come in with specific goals, but there's so much more to unpack when
Hmm.
once we start to get to know them. And for some people, it does look like a lot of conventional talk therapy, helping them through relationship issues, helping them through how to manage anxiety. If someone's coming to me with anxiety, we're looking at, how do I start to give you tools to feel safer in your body, especially if you're someone who says, I hate meditating, I hate doing breath work, I can't sit still. I'm going to work with you and give you a bunch of different tools and exercises to help you start to feel safe in your body. And it
Hmm.
could be anything from as intense as really intensive breath work where we might be doing activated movement like jumping jacks. It could be hopping on the vibration plate, or it could be something a lot slower like Tai Chi. So we're using all these different tools. And then I'm also trying to help you cultivate this sense of like, there is no urgency. And can we find safety in slowing down and feeling what's coming up, but not allowing it to completely control us? Like, we
Hmm.
don't want to ignore the emotions. We don't, I heard this great analogy recently that was, if your emotions are, you treat your emotions like children, annoying children in the backseat of a car. You wouldn't put these children in the trunk and suffocate them and kill them, but you also wouldn't let them drive the car because they're probably going to crash it. So teaching people how to actually be with their emotions and not suffocate them, not stuff them down, but also not let them run your behavior.
Hmm.
That's a lot of the work that I end up doing with people. Ultimately, I think kind of like almost all paths lead to this of, can I sit with discomfort?
Hmm.
Even in the depression world, right? Like, if someone's coming in with depression, can we sit with this and recognize that it doesn't have to totally control our behaviors, but also metabolize it, be with it, not ignore it. So yeah, so that's a lot of the work. I feel like I kind of just went all over the
Oh,
place because
it's
yeah,
great.
everyone is so different. So
Totally.
ends up everyone's plan ends up looking rather different.
Hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, like, I really just want my patients and clients to feel good and be able to achieve their dreams, be able to live the life that they want to live, whether it's overcoming anxiety or OCD or fears or depression or eating disorders or addictions or whatever it is, learning disabilities, ADHD.
Yeah.
I want them to feel like they have more of a grasp on their life
Yeah.
so they can really take these tools and run with them, even if we're not working together long term.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate your starting ground there of really understanding their current day-to-day life. I think oftentimes the conventional model of psychotherapy is, let's talk about your past. And it can
Mhm.
be for years to work through the past. And how
Yeah,
do I integrate that into today life? Because at the end of the day, I live here and now, not 20 years ago.
totally.
And
Absolutely.
for me, and this is the name of my brand, is the integrated individual, is how do I integrate all the knowledge, right? Like, how do I
Mhm.
become today's version, the future version of me that I dream of today? It's not going
Yes.
to happen tomorrow. It surely isn't happening yesterday. And to be able to kind of dance in that exploration with them between, as I tell my clients, like, dream up everything you could have ever imagined that you wanted, and let's go after that. And any place you start to get stuck, let's talk about that.
Hmm.
And explore, is that a yesterday thing or is that an in this moment thing? All that stuff, and as kind of said earlier, of dancing between the neurology and the somatic aspect of this to find the access points for their resistance and then work with them to massage its, lessening effect on their hold. And yeah,
Right.
so you spoke a little bit about, the questions you're asking them, right? What does your lifestyle look like? What's your sleep? What's your movement? All that stuff, diet,
Mhm.
exercise. What are the questions that a prospective client, because I believe a lot of people now more than ever are like, I would go into therapy if I believed in it, or if I thought it
Yeah.
worked, or if I could find the right client. I have multiple people that come work with me that are like, I've had 3 or 4 therapists and they all sucked, screw BetterHelp, et cetera, et cetera. So what are the questions for the audience that you'd instruct them to be asking of prospective therapists that they might want to work with?
Yes, I think that's a really good question. When you interview a therapist, I would I would call the therapist ideally as as being as clear as possible with what you want to get out of it
Yeah.
and what kind of relationship you'd like to develop. You know, the other day I was with my cousin and she's seeing kind of, I think, like a BetterHelp type therapist. And she was like, I know my therapist can't tell me what to do. And I was like, I tell my patients all the time, I'm like, I think you should go. Listen, if it's a big life decision, I'm not going to tell them what to do. But there are times where I'm like, listen, you're going to pick up your phone right now and you're going to text your brother and go get dinner with him.
Right.
Or I said to my patient, I Zoomed with her the other day. She was in, she, her, the other, we had a session on Thanksgiving. This is where we're right after Thanksgiving. And she was in Florida and she said, I took your advice and I came down to Florida.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I really, I knew that she needed some sunlight, right? So in that case, right, I'm a very engaged, interactive therapist. And look, part of that is also I have a lot of years of coaching and personal training. So I'm really constantly juggling this coaching versus therapy role. So I think it's important if you want a therapist who's more kind of that traditional, conventional blank slate that's just going to be there to listen and let you bounce ideas off of versus someone who's more engaged and interactive and going to ask you a lot of questions. People prefer different things. So I would say figure out what speaks to you more. If you've never been in therapy, it might be hard to know, but you can ask the therapist, are you someone who might be more engaging and really involved and interactive, or are you someone who kind of takes more of a back seat and lets me talk and figures out what I want and kind of is more of a soundboard?
Hmm.
So I think that's really important. What else would I have someone ask for a therapist? I would say if you know about specific modalities that you want to use in therapy, like right before we hopped on to this, we were talking about your work with IFS and somatic work. And, if someone wants to specifically do internal family systems work, or they want to do more behavior change work, or they want to do more psychoanalytic or psychodynamic work, really figuring out what is that therapist orientation. A lot of therapists today call themselves eclectic and they do a mix of a lot of different things. So, but people prefer different styles in that way. So getting clear on that, what do you want? Asking the person about their training. And I think even straight up, you can ask the therapist, have you worked with this and what has your experience been like? I got on a call with someone yesterday who said to me very explicitly, have you worked with complex PTSD
Hmm.
and how would you deal with XYZ scenario?
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, okay, so you're coming to me. I only have a little bit of information about you. It's a consultation call, but based on what information I have, this is likely what I would do with you
Yeah.
in terms of treatment. It might not go that way, but just based on our 20-minute conversation, this is some ideas I have. So I think being as pointed and direct as possible with the person is really helpful to get a sense of how they work. It's really hard to know how someone is once you start working with them, even as a therapist referring to other therapists, unless I have shared with that, unless I've collaborated with that therapist in the past, it's really hard to know what they're like. I can love them as a person, but I don't necessarily know what they're going to be like as a therapist,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
Totally.
So that's even hard too.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I love that. That, so people ask me because I've worked with incredible therapists, a couple of them, and they're like, I'm like, I home run to every one of them, and they're like, how? And I was like, I got really clear with what I was looking for. I
Mm,
was very clear on, one of the questions I asked was, what's your target demographic? Because some
Yes.
therapists are like, oh, I work specifically with women of sexual abuse. That's not going to help me, right? Like that's very, yes, I've experienced sexual abuse, but last I checked, my pronouns are not she, they, or whatever. And so,
Right.
so
Right.
that's not for me, right? And so that was one of them. I love what you said about like exploring and educating oneself on different modalities that harmonize with what I'm looking for. So for me, I knew I wanted an IFS therapist. I've been researching IFS for probably over 5 years. And so from the get go, I was like, I want an IFS based therapist.
Yeah.
That first therapist I got when I moved to Hawaii, one of the things she said is, Scott, I would really recommend, back to the point of advice giving or like guidance. She was like, I really would recommend you finding a somatic therapist. And so I did some work on that, and I found, because I knew, I don't remember how I got into it. Actually, I met someone in a coaching community who was specialized in somatic experiencing. So I went down the rabbit hole of Peter Levine, and I knew that I wanted a somatic experiencing based somatic therapist. Found
Yeah.
one, like home run. And I made the joke for a while that I would pay $150 for 90 minutes to take a nap. Like this woman
That's
was,
what I do too.
yeah, this woman was literally
It's
teaching me how to
great.
calm down, and it was like, and it ended up translating so deeply into my IFS therapy because I learned how to sit with and metabolize feelings. The question you said earlier, essentially, can I be with this, right?
Yes.
Which
Yes.
so many of us are like, no, I'm gonna hit my vape pen, or like I'm gonna go watch porn or blah blah blah, whatever, eat sugar because I can't be
Yeah.
with this, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And we definitely have to dive into this because my coach is a mix of family constellation
Oh,
and
so good.
somatic work. So
Yeah,
it has been, and also, once again, sometimes paying $150 to meditate for 90 minutes, but it's been the most profound
yeah,
experience I've had of all my therapy. So,
yeah,
so yeah, and I think it's really great. It's hard when you're not in this world sometimes to really know what the terminology is or what the modalities are.
yeah,
And so it does, you do really have to advocate for yourself and do this research.
yes,
And I would be weary of any therapist who tells you that they can work with anything. Because,
totally.
yeah, like anyone who's like, I can take the case, I can take, right. And I see that sometimes on listservs where, people are, a lot of therapists will post looking for a therapist for somebody else. And you always see those people who respond to everybody. And I'm
Mhm.
like, but do you actually like can you
Right.
like I'm very clear on what I don't work with.
Yeah.
I do work with a very wide array of issues because of the functional neurology background and the
Yeah.
holistic background, but I'm also very clear on that I don't work with children. I don't work with couples. I don't work with, you know, people who have pretty extreme personality disorders. Like find a therapist who also knows what they do and don't work with, and they're not
Yeah.
looking to just cater to everybody.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's so important. And, the quote that hit me when you were saying that, and a lot of people have heard this, like, the jack of all trades is a master of none.
Yes.
I want someone who's masterful in their craft because,
Mhm.
and something you talked about earlier in different wording, but to me, is this the foundation of so much of this is, how do I build rapport in my system and learn how to fortify trust with self so that I can go into some what were traumatic experiences and allow my nervous system to fully cycle. And it's
Mhm.
really hard when I don't trust my therapist because I'm not sure if they trust themselves. I'm like, I don't know about
Yeah.
this. This is not it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, even just, I think sometimes it's been really helpful for some of my patients to disclose information about myself to them, and it has helped them trust me more.
Yeah.
And that was a barrier I really had to break through when I first went into private practice. And I didn't realize how much of a difference it's made for some of my patients until they've told me, when you revealed XYZ to me, Elise, it helped me so much more to feel more comfortable with you. And the first time I experienced that, I know we might get into medication titration and stuff, is one of my first referrals in my private practice. This was back in, I think, 2020, was a referral. I was working at Bellevue Hospital in the psych ER, and one of the psychiatrists had a private practice, and he referred a patient to me. And I had shared with that psychiatrist that I myself had titrated off Xanax after being on it for 17 years. And he said to me, I actually have a patient in my private practice that I want to refer to you because this person wants to get off Xanax as well.
Yeah.
And I started working with the patient. And I work with her to actually, we still work together, and she's amazing. I mean, she's completely changed and incredible, like doing incredibly. It's wonderful. But I remember working with her, and I never in my I never would have thought I would have revealed something so personal, because in social work school and
Yeah.
in conventional psychotherapy training, you're told like self-disclosure, bad, 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 right?
Right.
And I was talking to the psychiatrist one day in a social setting, and he goes, "Did you ever think about telling our patient that you got off Xanax?" And I was like, I can do that? Like, that's allowed?" And he said, "I actually think it would really benefit her."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." And I'm like doing my private practice, and I take a deep breath, and I told her, and I was
Mhm.
nervous. I was like, this could go really poorly. I don't know. And she said to me, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better knowing that you
Yeah.
went through this too."
100%.
And she said to me a few years later, she said, "I don't know if I could have done it if I didn't know that you had also gone through it too."
Right. Yeah, I mean the inspiration that we borrow from those we aspire to be like, right?
Hmm.
It's so helpful, and I've done similar things, sharing with the people, and in a lot of cases women, but also the amount of prevalence of this topic in men, of like sharing my sexual abuse stories with other humans, being like, holy shit, how did you do that? Like, and you made it through, and you're not, and that could be sharing things about suicidal ideation or drug addiction or sexual abuse. Like, there's been a lot of things on this human journey that I've gone through where people are like, and you're still here. And I'm like, oh yeah. And there were moments where I wasn't quite sure about it, and we're fully in right now. Like, I'm fully here for this. And they're like, okay, I'm interested in diving in now, because I
I
was
love
I was
it.
afraid of what I could find. I'm like, I hear you, buddy. And those parts are scared. And one of the things that's really helped me in the past year is working with the part of me that was very convinced that the best way to do this was force, manipulate, coerce, or press, like as hard as I could. And it's like, I'm not in that bullying business anymore,
Yeah,
and to help people be like, wait, I don't have to change. I'm like, I mean, you surely don't have to. You might want to, you might like find value in it, but the pressure that creates, like, I think we could table that for a minute if you feel okay with it. And so I
absolutely.
love your willingness to open up to your clients or the internet and just show like it's okay to be me. And people are like, wait, if it's okay to be you, is it okay to be me? Are
Yeah,
we
right?
sure?
It really, I mean, a post, and I'm blanking on it specifically, the post, I think it might have been about your post
Yeah,
about
the
sexual
body
abuse
image
and
stuff.
the body image. Yes, and the amount of love and support that you received, because I was looking at the comments, and
Ooh.
I just felt so appreciative and grateful of your post.
Mm,
And I was like, wow. He's so brave. This is so awesome. And I know that so many people are looking at this and connecting to it and feeling seen and not feel like no longer feeling alone.
yeah,
And there's something about there's just humanness, which we've lost. We've lost so much about humanness and connection in this
yeah,
world, that when you reveal something like that and other people have experienced it, there's hope. There's
yeah,
hope, there's love, there's connection, and that's what we need more of,
yeah.
especially for healing. So I'm so grateful for your posts.
Mm.
And even one of your posts, actually, even I was like, there was something about you're wanting your parents to go to therapy.
Oh
You
yeah,
you
yeah,
posted. I was
yeah,
like, you like that triggered me so much. I saw that post, and I was like, damn, Scott, like he's really getting at me right now. Like
yeah.
you really made me think a lot from that post, and
Mm-hmm.
and changed my mindset on
Mm,
some things. So
mm,
thank you, because they hit hard, but when you're really open to sitting with what's being triggered, there's so much that can come of it. And I love your content. I'm so,
mm,
so grateful for it. And I know that there are people out there that are so appreciative too of what you're sharing and that openness and vulnerability. And finding someone to work with who has experienced something, it may not be the exact same thing, but something like that, right? There's a connection, there's that sense of safety that you're talking about. Finding a therapist or finding a coach that you feel safe with is
mm-hmm.
so important. It's
Mm-hmm.
so, so important, because the whole point is like for you to feel that you can just be totally yourself with this person
Yeah.
and not have to feel like you have to cover anything up or not share something.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And thank you for the acknowledgement. I received that fully and mirror it back to you in your content as well. I love
Thank you.
Well, we're gonna get into the DJing journey at some point because I can't. It's so fun to witness you in that joy.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, like I remember when I made that post because I joined this posting challenge. I have not posted this video yet, but like day 3 or 4, I was laying in my bed and I made a video of like, I hate this effing posting challenge because now I'm like called to share the parts of my journey. And I said something to the effect of like, I'm here to share the parts of my journey. And then I started crying and I was like, but I do not want to share why I found the tools I did. Like I don't want
Mm,
to have, and it was so beautiful because I have so much rapport with myself in this. It was like right now posting this would be like pornographizing my healing. It would be like bullying myself onto a billboard to being like, here we go, guy. And he just didn't want to. So I haven't posted it. I still have the video, but it
yeah.
really showed me that like there are some really tender parts in here,
Hmm.
and probably 2 weeks later, I was like, what do I want to post about? And that hit me so clearly of like, tell this story. And so I wrote that post, and as soon as I hit share, I cried so hard letting it out of just like, okay, he's out in the world now. I don't have to protect you. And
Yeah.
just and I literally remember feeling like my body's like, we no longer have to hold this weight.
Wow.
I've lost 10 pounds in the last month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
After it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And it was
I
it
can
was about a month ago that I posted it. Yeah.
the body doesn't we all think it's like, oh, it all has to make sense, right? It's like calories in, calories out. No, like this is a great example of how the body there is a consciousness in our body, and it is holding a lot of stuff, and
Hmm.
it is op nothing is random. Nothing is random, nothing is by accident. Our body is I mean, there is such an inherent intelligence
Yeah.
that it is constantly working to protect us,
Yeah.
to find safety for us in ways that sometimes we do not understand and we're angry about, but it does it. It's working for you.
Yeah.
It's not random,
Yeah.
and that really shows it. Wow, 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 wow.
Yeah, it's like this year has been not one of, it has been the most profound year of my life. Like, I'm now 8 months sober off of cannabis. I quit drinking. I haven't watched porn like in months. Like,
Yeah.
the overeating has stopped. Like, and I'm seeing like it's okay to be me, and to
Mhm.
share that with the world. I tell people like they're like, why do you do this? I'm like, because it helps me make sense of my life. The
Yeah.
things that happened to me, I'm like, on some soul level, I chose, but for a long time, I was like, dude, what? Why would you do that to me? And I was telling someone today, I was like, oh, that's actually the new paradigm of like the 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 way I'm distinguishing it is like in this new world, there's love and freedom, and then there's fear and suffering, and you pick which one you're going to live in.
Absolutely.
And in love and freedom is the trust that source, God, creator, whatever you want to call it, doesn't make mistakes, is not here to punish us, and everything is for me, through me, by me, right? And
Hmm.
so in that case, now I can trust again. In the same way, when I eat food, my body's going to digest it. I can trust that what was given to me was for me. And now it's like, now I can digest it. Now I don't need to hold this stuff anymore. And I'm like, just watching the weight fall off. My birthday was a couple weeks ago, and someone was like, "You're 38," and I was like, "Yeah, I know, I look 28, but it's all good. Like,
I,
skincare
yeah,
is the new crying, like, or crying is the new
exactly.
skincare."
Are you a fellow Libra?
No, I'm a Scorpio.
You're a Scorpio. Okay. I was gonna say because my birthday was a month and a half ago. So
Oh,
I
happy
was
belated
like, oh,
birthday.
okay, you too, you too.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's really, really amazing. I'm curious, I don't know if you want to go there. I'm really curious what got you to go sober off of
Yeah.
all these
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share. And this is
things.
something I actually shared recently in the last podcast. And this is such an interesting thing, and I haven't shared it on social yet because there's like the brevity and pace at which it moves. I'm sure it's going to get misunderstood, so I'm like moving towards it, but we haven't gotten there yet. In On Christmas last year, I made a commitment that I was going to post every day for the year. Actually, I said I was going to post every day for January because I was like, I don't know if I can commit to a year, but I'm going to post every day until I stop. And I posted every day in January. I posted every day in February. And in March, my post started going viral. So I had 200,000 views on my page in February and in March, and posts were starting to blow up. And people were starting to get really questionable in the comments, and I wasn't able to hold it. And
Mhm.
what ended up happening was in March, out of legitimately nowhere, like a spiral of suicidal ideation came in that I had no idea was still there.
Yeah.
So, 11 years ago, I was engaged to be married, and I cheated on my fiance. She called off the wedding. And when she moved out and my empty house with nothing in it, it was so loud that the suicidal ideation creeped in to the point where I almost fulfilled upon it. Fast forward about a year later, 6 months later, something like that, I found a guitar, and I realized in that moment that if I started playing guitar, I couldn't think and play guitar at the same time. So I found like a pretty societally acceptable coping strategy. And then fast forward a decade later, my life started to really take off, and that coping strategy no longer worked. And so
Mm.
in March, I got to a point one night where I was like, I'm just going to take my life. And I was radically close. And I was sitting in my bedroom. I told my girlfriend to leave me. Finally, after, and she's deep in IFS work. And finally, she was like, okay, I'll leave. And sitting in my room by myself with a gun in my hand, I was like, okay. For the first time in my life, I felt compassion for that guy. And I told him, I was like, look, guy, if this is what you really want, I'll go there with you. I'll do it. If that's really what you want. And I'll never forget this. He stopped, turned to look at me, and he's like, I don't want that. I just wanted you to love me. And it instantly
Yeah.
dissolved. It was gone,
Wow.
instantly gone. And that
Wow.
was 8.5 months ago. And not a trace of that type of thought has came since. Almost instantly afterwards, I quit smoking weed. I
Mhm.
instantly saw I didn't need to manage this experience anymore. And then I don't really drink alcohol anyway, but that was like definitely not a thing. And then what really came
Yeah.
to was in September, I realized I did a heroic psychedelic dose, and I realized that I was actually dating my mother that I wish I got. And so I broke up with my girlfriend. And that was what I had been so afraid of sitting with, was all the feelings that were to meet me alone, living on an island in the middle of the ocean. And I had built enough rapport in my system to be like, I will sit with you with these. And very shortly after I broke up with her, all of it started coming up of like, okay, this is what I was afraid of. And just allowing myself to metabolize and digest and fall into the void. And then the porn fell away. And then all the desire to manipulate and coerce women fell away. And it was just like, and then I hired a nutritionist. And then the weight started to fall away. And so it's just been one thing after another of fortifying the courage inside of myself to be like, I will sit with you. I can be with anything and not need a filter or a mask or anything in the way of who I know myself to be. And it's been like, someone asked me a couple days ago, they were like, how do you cope with life? And I said, I don't think I am. I think I'm just feeling. And they were
Yes.
like,
Yes.
what?
People are like, what are your vices? I was like, what? Because I don't drink, I don't use drugs. I'm
Right.
like, I like DJing and playing music and having a dance party with myself sometimes. Like that's like, like that makes me so happy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like why why do we need a vice? Why do we need a coping? Like, yeah, I have my routines and my habits and my rituals that help me feel good,
Yeah.
but like I don't feel like I need something to fill the void,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
And if I do, if I start running to something, I have to check in with myself and
Yeah.
ask myself, what am I trying to not feel right now? You
One of my
know?
one of my favorite questions is, what feeling am I most unwilling to feel?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah,
So good.
exactly. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. I was tearing up as you were telling the story. And first of all, it's so brave to not go through with it,
Yeah.
right? It's so brave to actually say, I'm going to be with this. I'm going to be with myself and I'm going to
Yeah.
show myself that love. And I appreciate that you shared this because when I went out the last time I went to the Czech Institute,
Hmm.
Paul,
Hmm.
you're
Yeah.
familiar with Paul. Oh yeah, we talked about we were
Yeah.
messaging about this.
Yeah.
So I was at holistic lifestyle coaching level 3 and I talked to Paul very briefly and had talked to him a little bit about what I do, what kind of work I do. and he called me out in the middle of class. He was teaching class and he called me out and he goes, you have a lot of work to do in this world, Elyse, and don't make me have to chase you down. And everyone in the class was like, like, because like Paul like barely knows that Paul barely knows his current students anymore. They're like, oh my gosh. And, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like this was worth all the thousands of dollars I paid to be here, between like the flight
Totally.
and food and board and the course. And, uh, he came up to me after and I just said thank you. I really needed to hear that because I was going through a bit of a crisis between holistic lifestyle coaching 2 and 3. I
Yeah.
had a bit of what is my dream crisis,
Yeah.
like not really sure where I'm at and what I want to do. And I was still doing what I'm doing, but I kind of lost I lost a lot of focus and wasn't really happy. And he said, I said, I needed to hear that. You have no idea what that did for me. And he said, you just need to love yourself. You need to love
Mm.
yourself and trust yourself. And I felt like he saw
Mm-hmm.
right into me
Mm-hmm.
with my biggest struggle of at that time, and it's constantly a work in progress. It wasn't that long ago. It was like within the last year and a half, I think. But I really have struggled so much with the self-love and the self-trust.
Yeah.
And it really feeds a lot into the social media stuff because
Mm-hmm.
as much as I do feel like people will say to me, wow, you're open, you're vulnerable. There's so much that I also am afraid to do that
Mm-hmm.
I am so terrified of criticism
Mm-hmm.
and what people are going to think. And is this cringe? And
Mm.
should I post it? And it really, it's stuff I'm really working through right now because it does inhibit my growth.
Yeah.
Because as long as I'm worried about what other people are going to think or what other people are going to say, and I'm not able to sit with that discomfort that comes up when I read a comment,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to stop me from really being fully out there authentically.
Yeah.
And I like to think that I'm a pretty authentic person because I
Mm-hmm.
typically am. Like I'm not someone who can really lie about my feelings or pretend like I feel a certain way. I just am not. Like I just like wear like I was talking to my guy friends recently and they were like about my dating life and they were like, you need to be more mysterious, Elyse. And I was like, that's not me. I'm not mysterious. Like this, like what you see is what you get, you know? And I was like, I don't even know what that means, be more mysterious. But there is this thing that I do continue to work through around
Yeah.
the self-love, the self-trust, being there for myself
Yeah.
and just continuing to be authentic. I mean, it's one thing to be authentic with people that you know and trust and love.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be authentic with a bunch of strangers out there, like, millions of people who have access to your content. It's
Yeah.
it's it's different,
Yeah.
and so yeah,
Yeah.
the self-love and being able to sit with this and feel it and ask
Yeah.
yourself, what feeling do I not want to feel right now?
Yeah.
It's the key. I say this is the key. This is the magic bullet. If you can sit with any emotion that comes up for you, this is the biggest superpower there is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to run to the drugs and you're not going to run to the porn and you're not going to run to the food and you're not like you're you're able to actually be with whatever's coming up, to be able to sit with that and not let it define you and recognize this is a feeling. It's not going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the type of thing that I wish they taught in elementary school
Mm-hmm.
because instead they teach things that are like somewhat useless most of the time. And now we have generations of kids and teens and adults who can't be with discomfort.
Yeah.
And it's causing a lot of issues in our society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I 100%. I'm curious if I can ask you a question about the social media thing.
Yeah.
You were talking about like the difficulty to sit with, back to what they don't teach in elementary school, the difficulty to sit with the, we'll call it negative, we'll label it as a negative comment on social media. And the question that arose as you were speaking about it is, what is the narrative that Elyse holds that these comments are the evidence for?
I know this is what my coach always asks me to. You have I have a somatic based business coach. She's amazing. She's like, because I'll come to her week after week. I'll be like, I didn't do that thing. I didn't do that thing we talked about. I can't do it. I can't handle it. And she's like, slow down. Let's
Mm-hmm.
sit with this. Like, what is that fear?
Yeah.
And I think there's this. A lot of it is like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, I need that validation of wanting to know that I'm putting out the right information,
Yeah.
or it's good enough, or that I'm smart enough, or that I know enough. It used to be more like it's cringe or it's annoying or it's weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes that still does come up. It's not as strong, but it definitely is there.
Right.
But a lot of it is definitely around not being enough, having enough, doing enough, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. No, I get that. And
Yeah.
thank you for exploring it. It's so relatable, like, and even as you shared it, right, the cringe part, I kind of experience as like an older version of you, maybe a teenager or like a early 20, like, ugh, but then,
Yeah.
but then closer to the bone is that I'm not good enough, that younger version of you that is much more vulnerable, much more tender, right? And in a lot of these cases, it's crazy how simple the words that create the prisons that we live inside of are. Like I was just talking to this woman earlier today, and she was like, like, yeah, I just live inside this story called I'm not capable. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And we got back to I'm wrong. And I was like, there it is. And she just started
Yeah.
bawling, just like, yep, this is how it works, right? This little version of you who had all the evidence in the world that she's wrong, and that means that her dad doesn't love her, and here we are. And how, as you talked about earlier, connected we are, and how divisive removing the humanity of our experiences, because everybody can relate to that, about
Hmm.
fearing not being loved or worthy of love from our care providers, that is really a 5 to 9 year old that is just like, I'm going to drive this car because if I don't drive this car, we might crash. And so get over, move over. And it's like, thank you. And no.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 And it's
Yeah.
it's it's all about it's like constantly unpeeling these layers,
Yeah. Yeah.
showing yourself a little bit more love, trusting yourself. I mean, in order to trust yourself, you have to practice. Like you have to put yourself out there and
Right.
make decisions, and see how it goes. And a lot of the work I'm doing with this coach, my public speaking coach turned into my business coach, is I've been teaching a lot of workshops. I
Mhm.
started doing, I'm brought into organizations, but I also teach my own continuing education workshops to
Mm-hmm.
therapists, and people don't have to be therapists as well. And in the beginning, was so tied to the feedback. Like I would hold my breath waiting for the feedback to come in. And then
Right.
like every word I'd take to heart, right? And for the most part, it's actually been really, really positive. People want to come back to workshops. They find the information incredibly valuable. But if someone says one thing that's like even a little bit negative, I'm like, ah, like, look, I would literally like, I would call my coach after one of the earlier ones I did on my own when I started teaching the series. I messaged my coach right after I got off the call and I go, it was awful. It was awful. And like she watched the video because she's a public speaking coach, so she watches the video and gives me feedback. She goes, I don't know what you're talking about. It was and I was like,
Yep.
but then more recently, I taught a workshop and I got feedback, and someone wrote something that I was like, I really wanted to understand where they were coming from, but I was like, I don't think this is actually accurate, and I
Yeah.
don't really know where it's coming from, and I was able to not take it so personally, which does
Yeah.
show the growth, and really the real growth is like I teach it, I take the feedback. I don't take it personally, but I understand it as that. It's just feedback. It's room to grow. It's room for improvement. It's not a personal attack on me. And it doesn't say that I'm a bad person or I'm dumb or I'm not good enough. But that's really a lot of the work I've been working through of
Hmm.
being able to sit with the feedback
Hmm.
and not be like I have to brace myself to get it,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know?
Right.
And
I
that
love
goes
that.
into the self-love, the self-trust, you
Yeah.
know. And here's the thing is, Paul Chek always says, with a dream, there is no crisis. And
Mm.
with a big enough dream, you're motivated to still keep going, even if that feedback isn't always great, right? If my vision is, so excited to teach these workshops, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to pursue, I'm not going to let that discomfort of what might happen in my body and what I might experience if someone gives me negative feedback or doesn't like what I taught. I'm not going to let that stop me and shrink me.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going because that's my dream. But it
Yes.
is really easy that if I can't sit with that discomfort, it is so easy to shut down and stop doing it.
100%.
There's a
100%.
lot of emotional work that goes on underneath the surface that people don't
Oh,
realize.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it reminded me something. So, in this accessing these parts of ourselves, right? And the emotional components and the psychosomatic. And so that's where I wanted to go next was, at the beginning, we talked about your specialization in neurosomatics, right? And so the cognitive and then the somatic, the brain and the body. And a lot of people meet psychotherapy as a cognitive based thing, a top down approach
Yes.
versus somatic being like a body led approach. Could you distinguish the difference between the two and maybe ways in which the listenership can meet themselves?
Yes. Yes. So the top-down approach it's really a lot of the intellectualizing. So it's understanding what's going on, where is this coming from? Maybe there's more behavioral changes that you can do to help start to move the needle a little bit. But it's sitting there and discussing what is going on. Let's understand it from a verbally and
Hmm.
try to make sense of it. But what that misses is that what you're talking about, that bottom up approach of the somatic experience of can I sit with it? Can I feel it? Can I be with it? And I'll give you an example of I teach a people pleasing workshop that's actually become pretty popular for therapists. It's really great. And by the way, when I started teaching it, I couldn't even market it because I said to myself, "Oh my God, I'm a fraud. Like I'm such a people pleaser, and now I'm going to teach about people pleasing. Like who's going to come to my workshop? They're going to be like, you're full of shit." And I said that to one of my friends, and she goes, "That's why you're perfect to teach it." And I was like,
Right.
"Okay, okay, I feel even better
Done.
now." But exactly. So the people pleasing workshop, what I do is basically address it from both angles, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about where does people pleasing come from? What is people pleasing, right? People usually typically are they don't want to experience rupture in a relationship. They
Hmm.
don't want to do something that's going to cause somebody else to get upset or to reject them or to, give them feedback that they don't want to hear. And what do? We change ourselves to accommodate the other person so there is no rupture in connection. Now we can understand that on a logical level and we can talk about where does the people pleasing come from, maybe some trauma growing up with primary caregivers and how they reacted to things and what your relationship was like with them. But at the end of the day, how do we actually shift out of people pleasing tendencies? Because it's very easy to tell someone, well, just have better boundaries, just say no. But okay, that's fine. That's all good and dandy. I understand that I need to do that, but I can't do it. I can't do it because my nervous system can't sit with what is going to happen when I say no to this person, how they might respond.
Hmm.
And I don't even know for sure how they're going to respond, but maybe I can guess how they're going to respond. And I know that I can't tolerate that.
Hmm.
So therefore, I continue to stay in these patterns of accommodating other people and abandoning myself and
Hmm.
never actually knowing what it is that I want to do or what I like or if this is actually a yes or this is this a no. So the workshop shifts into how do we help ourselves and our clients sit with this discomfort that comes up when they actually do or say something that might result in rupture in relationship with somebody
Yeah.
else and they start to not engage in their typical tendencies and patterns of people pleasing.
Mm.
That's about the skills and tools to be in the body
Hmm.
and be able to tolerate what's coming up and not run away from it. And because you can run away with it, run away from the discomfort with drugs, alcohol, food, addictions, etc. But you
Yeah.
can also run away from it by not actually doing the thing that you want to do and just continuing to accommodate the other person because
Hmm.
that helps you avoid feeling the discomfort too.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of the workshop too so it's that's the top down and bottom up approach
Yeah.
of marrying the two.
Mm.
And I think that really good therapy and coaching blends them.
Yes.
Because if not, I spent years and years in therapy since I was a young teen, just doing the talk stuff and the CBT. And I was very behaviorally focused, and a lot of my training in social work school was more cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy. And I was really gung ho about the behavior stuff and never really into the psychodynamic, psychoanalytic stuff. But then the somatic work actually changed things for me because, yes, the somatic stuff about being present, but it helped me also understand where my like where these patterns were coming from in my past.
Yeah.
And then I ended up joining, now I'm in a psychoanalytic supervision group because I was like, I never studied this and I poo-pooed it all of social work school and after social work school. And I actually probably should learn about it because it's really cool and interesting. And I study with the 75-year-old, really like old school psychoanalyst. So, right, but even the psychoanalysis doesn't do the somatic work. It doesn't do the body
Hmm.
work. So it really is this marriage of the two. And I think ultimately having a coach or therapist who can sit with you through all of it and call you out when you're over intellectualizing and not feeling.
Yeah. 100%. Right. Like, thank you for telling me all about your thoughts. How do you feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
my patients get mad at me sometimes, and I'm like, we're
right.
gonna stop right here. We can
Yeah.
go back to it, but I gotta do something to get
Right.
you into your body right now and be with
Right.
this,
Right.
you
No, I
know?
agree. I think that's the master is noticing when the cerebralization is going on and being like, hey, pause. What do you feel? What do you
Yeah.
mean? What do I feel like? Yeah, exactly. Like, and inviting people into that somatic experience and holding that presence for them to just say, hey, it's okay to be in this right now. How's it
Yes.
feeling?
What's so ironic about this is that when I became a therapist, I swore I would not be the therapist that said, "How does that make you feel?" But the thing about that is that conventional training around how does that make you feel, they never taught us about how does that make you feel
Right.
in here.
Yeah.
It's like that makes me feel sad.
Right.
That makes me feel anxious. That no, that's not what we're talking about though when we talk about how does that make you feel. I'm talking about how does it feel in your gut? How does it feel in
Yeah.
your chest? How does it feel in your throat? Like
Yes.
being with it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I was always hating on this. How does that make you feel? Because
Yes.
I didn't understand. But we didn't learn that. I didn't learn any of this in social work school. I didn't learn any of this until uh I don't know, the last 4 years. And I graduated social work school in 2016, 2015.
Wow. Wow.
So I was in social work school, never learned it. Worked at Bellevue for 5 years, never learned it. Started my private practice, didn't know any of this either. And it wasn't until I started working with my somatic slash family constellation coach that I actually
Wow.
really started to understand it, which
Yeah.
blows my mind because I'm like, how did I operate as a therapist before
Yeah.
that?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and I really acknowledge you, Elise, for your willingness to continue to grow and to learn this stuff, right? Both for yourself as well as for your clients, because staying at the cutting edge of these type of things is what allows us to have these breakthroughs and help,
Yeah.
people enact real change in their lives. And so I just appreciate your willingness to be a student.
Oh, well, we are our first and last patients of the day.
Yeah,
So
right.
we
People must need to
gotta
learn.
this is where all the learning and growth happens. So yeah, I feel very dedicated to it, and I feel like every experience is an opportunity to learn and grow, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Even the stuff that feels like quote unquote bad experiences.
yeah.
I'm like, well, this is definitely going to help me, and hopefully it'll help my patients too when I'm working through it.
100%. Yeah, and I don't know if I want to call it a suggestion, but I've had this desire to make an Instagram reel on this, and I'm going to let you take it if you want. So I think that people pleasing needs a marketing campaign, an update, and I think it should be called self-abandoning now.
Yes,
Because people pleasing is too sexy, right? Like, oh, I'm a people pleaser. Like, bro, quit. You're a,
it
you're a,
is. You're right.
you're a
You got
self-abandoner.
you have to do this. This is your idea. You have to run with it.
We'll
I'm
see who
very
gets through it first.
anti-stealing other
It's not
people's
stealing if
ideas.
I'm giving it to you.
No, no. Or we do it together.
All right, that might work too. Okay,
We
we
do it
can
as a
collab.
collab.
You come to Maui, we'll make the self-abandoning 101 workshop.
Oh my gosh, I love it. a
Because
thousand
when you
percent.
hear it that way, it's like I'm a self-abandoner. You're like, wow, that sucks. Like I
Yeah,
am not a
exactly.
self-abandoner. But that is what this is, right? It is a self-abandoning technique.
And I feel like your point is so, so true because I feel like when people hear people please, I'm a people pleaser, there's no motivation to change it.
Oh,
You know
it
what I mean? Like
sounds
I'm
so
a people,
valiant.
right. I'm a people pleaser. People like me because I'm so over accommodating.
Right.
And it's like, why would I change that? My life is good this way. I
Yeah, it
like this.
works.
I like,
Yeah.
okay, you gotta do this. I mean, I would love to collaborate with you, but this is your idea and it's so good and you gotta put it out
So
there.
here's how we
Yeah.
do it. We can do a two angle. Somehow we gotta script a script, and then
Yes.
we'll separately film it, and we'll edit it together, and we'll collab across the oceans.
Yes, I love it. I've always loved those videos and always wanted to make one of those anyway. So
Yeah.
that would be awesome. And it is so true.
Yeah.
It is so true. And yeah, because people aren't really look at the end of the day, you gotta want it for yourself, right? But
Right.
a lot of times people hear, I don't need to change my people pleasing. Like,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but what is it costing you? What is it
Right.
costing you?
Yeah.
And yeah. And the most interesting, totally tangential, but like one of the most interesting things I find around people pleasing is when people don't even know themselves and they
Sure.
never really got to know themselves because every decision they've ever made
Right.
was based on what other people would think
Mm-hmm.
or expect from them.
Yeah.
Now that's a whole other skill set of tapping into your intuition and learning to trust yourself and figuring out what you actually like and don't like.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. No,
Yeah.
this is a great segue into a place that I think will be really beneficial for the people who this applies to, which is titration of medication. Right?
Yes.
Getting to know yourself and understand what you do and don't like, including feeling the way you do when you're medicated. And so, could you just give us a little bit of preface of what that journey was like for you getting on, off, wherever you want to start?
Yeah. I was put on SSRIs back when I was 14.
Wow.
And I had such bad reactions to every single one. So I was just bounced on and off of different SSRIs. And I can't tell you how many I was on. It just felt like I was on almost every single one that was on the market at the time.
Mm,
And then I was put on benzodiazepines, Xanax, Klonopin,
mhm.
on top of the SSRIs. I had really bad insomnia. I still have really bad insomnia. So then I was put on Ambien, Lunesta, all the sleep
Wow.
medications. Then I struggled significantly with binge eating disorder. So I got a Vyvanse prescription.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I was working at Bellevue after grad school, I was on four psychiatric medications, plus birth control and like a daily allergy pill.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a lot.
Cocktail. The cocktail.
It's a
A salad
cocktail.
of pills.
Yeah, yeah. I would go to the pharmacy and joke that I felt like a grandma picking up my stuff. The pharmacist knew me, and I'm
Yeah.
in my mid 20s, it's a little,
Yeah.
it's a lot. So I never felt good on the medications. It
Yeah.
never actually, like, I just always had awful side effects, sleep issues, sweating, eh, gastro issues, whatever it was. I never felt good on any of them. None of them were a magic pill. And it was really sold to me by a therapist as try this, it's really going to fix everything. It's
Yeah.
that magic bullet.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Now, for some people I have seen some patients drastically improve on it. And, there's research now saying this whole, the chemical imbalance is not a thing. And in trials, placebos are just as is not more effective than SSRI. So, right, and I don't know, but I don't know for sure. I've seen a lot of people struggle with them, and I've also seen some people really benefit from them.
Hmm.
So I don't want to poo-poo them all together, but I do think there's a lot more that can be done before we just throw someone on an SSRI. There seems to be this kind of like on the one end of the spectrum, a therapist is told just tell your patient to meditate, and if they can't meditate, send them to a psychiatrist. And it's
Right.
like, hello, what about all the things in between, the things that we open the podcast with, the breathing, the nutrition, the sunlight, even just what is someone's dream? Okay, if you have constantly done your life the way that you were supposed to, right? I'm from North Jersey. I'm from the New York metropolitan area. I'm Jewish. What are you told? You go get a good job, you go to grad school, law school, medical school, you go get married, you have kids, you have the nice house. Okay, well, what if that's not what I wanted? And now I'm significantly depressed because I'm just stuck in an office all day doing what I never actually want anyway. I didn't want to live. Here's a pill, it's going to fix all your problems. That doesn't make sense. Like, how does that make sense? So we have to figure out what is, what's your dream, right? But okay, but I'm going on a whole tangent. But so I was on the medications. I never felt good. I was working at Bellevue. I was very, very burnt out. I was having suicidal thoughts on a regular basis. I was very anxious. I couldn't stop overeating, binge eating, and I was barely surviving. I was really not surviving. And I was working out a lot and I became a personal trainer. Someone was like, you're working out here all the time. Why don't you just work at the front desk? So I worked at the front desk, then became a personal trainer because, that's kind of what happens. You work at the front desk of the gym and then you become a personal trainer. So it's like everyone's
Yeah.
story. How'd you
Yep.
first, oh, I worked at the gym, the front desk, or you had like a raging eating disorder, or you had an obsessive workout addiction, and that's how you became a personal trainer. So
Here we are.
kind of like all my problems. So I started studying with a mentor of mine at the gym, anatomy and movement and things like that. And he sent me to a functional neurology class. He said, go to this class. Z Health is the organization I studied with. And it was their intro level class. They taught in New York. It was on a weekend. And I took the class, and most of everyone in there is pretty much a personal trainer. I know nothing. I know nothing about anatomy. I know nothing about neurology. I sat in this class and I did not know what was going on, but I thought to myself, this is the hocus pocus bullshit I've ever heard, or it's going to change my life. And we're talking about the visual system and the vestibular system and the proprioceptive system and interoceptive system. So all these everything that goes is involved in the nervous system and the brain. And I'm sitting there listening to this in the midst of my severe depression. It's winter in New York City also. And I'm like, I don't really know what's going on here, but it seems to make sense that if my nervous system isn't running really smoothly and it's not working optimally, that my body doesn't feel safe and I'm going to be depressed and anxious and I can't really function well. So I started working with a coach who was master level in that program, and she was really interested in mental health. So she actually said to me, look, I'm not going to charge you if you'll be my guinea pig and let me do like Z health, functional neuroscience stuff with you, but really focus on mental health. And I was like, sure, I'll do whatever at this point. I'm so miserable and on so many medications that I will do whatever it takes to feel better. So I started working with her. She referred me to a few people in our world, and ultimately I started studying the program myself, working with these therapists and coaches, and I started to get off the medication.
Mm.
And because I was getting healthier, I was healing, I was starting to heal nervous system dysregulation. I was eating better, I was breathing better. I wasn't working out as much, like I was really overdoing it on the workouts. The healer that I've worked with the last 8 years has crazy equipment and machinery that he would like set me up with, and like I don't know what he was doing, my brain, I don't know what he was doing, but it was amazing because it really, really helped calm me down and really start to rewire things for me. So I started to get off the medication because that's what I wanted. I didn't want to be on this medication for relief, even though I was told, you're broken, you're depressed, you're anxious, you need medication. It's not what I wanted, and because it wasn't working anyway. So why be on something that's not working? So I started to get off, and I was like, damn, like this, I gotta really go all in on learning this, really all in. So I started studying, I was flying out to Arizona every 2 to 3 months to study at this functional neuroscience program. I was personal training, learning about the body, learning about anatomy. And the gym that I trained at on the Upper West Side of Manhattan was the hub of basically Czech trainers and Z Health trainers. So I was surrounded by the most brilliant personal trainers in all of New York City. So
Wow.
I was learning from, I mean, these trainers were smarter than most physical therapists. No, no,
Mm.
no offense to physical therapists out there. They just knew so much and about the brain and the body. And so I was just surrounded by a wealth of information and
Mm.
constantly learning from these people. So
Yeah.
I'm having that component. And then I'm working at Bellevue. I'm learning more of the conventional psychiatry, but also seeing what happens in the system that
Yeah.
patients are brought in. They're fed really poorly. They're not given the opportunity to go outside. No one cares about anything except for medicating them. And it's a revolving door. The patients come in and out, in and out, and seeing like this system isn't working either,
Hmm.
and I was just a cog in the system too. I wasn't on the inpatient unit, but I was in the psychiatry, system for a very long time. So that's ultimately what happened. Um, is this slow titration of doing a lot of things for my health,
Hmm.
really replacing, I don't want to call it replacing, but replacing my antidepressant with like getting outside in the morning every day and doing breath work. Um, Doing a lot of detox protocols to help support my body, eating in a way and supplementing in a way that helps support my body to make that process a lot easier. And I'm pretty rigid and with my morning routine because I know that it helps me feel good.
Hmm.
Um, I am still on a very, very baby dose of sleep medication. It's been very, very hard for me to get off of.
Hmm.
And I definitely feel the effects of it. So
Hmm.
I am pretty like pretty routine about the things that I do in my life because I'm trying to support my body in that process of getting off of it.
Yeah.
And because it does affect me. It does affect in how I feel
Hmm.
on a day-to-day basis. So that's been the process. That's been the
Yeah.
journey. And
Yeah.
now being, blessed enough to help people with that, a similar experience, people who come to me and they want to get off the Xanax, like that patient I mentioned earlier, getting off SSRIs, getting off stimulants. And I always say to them, look, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you what to do, but what we're
Yeah.
going to do is we're going to work with your psychiatrist. We're going to help your nervous system to feel safer through all these different modalities and tools. And ultimately, we're going to collaborate to help titrate you off.
Mm.
And people have had a lot of success.
Mm. You read my mind. That was my next question, and you just answered it. I know you're not able to give advice and direction on that, but to the point of collaboration and just awareness around what feels good, what doesn't, and moving in a way that feels good for their system is it. My guess is for those who listen to this and are on a similar journey or desire to be, will find a lot of inspiration and the ability to hear that someone like them or in their situation has found success in
Mhm.
living a life free of those type of things.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say, also there's a book that I love. It's The Anatomy of Anxiety by Ellen
Mm.
Vora. And she talks
Mm.
a lot about these things that I was already implementing in my practice and with myself. And then her book came out and she's a functional medicine
Cool.
psychiatrist who shares all this information. So I usually I tell my patients, please read this book, please get this book. I love her work, especially because um, she is not dogmatic.
Yeah.
She's nuanced. She is just very open-minded. Alina and I actually hung out with her recently, got coffee with her, and she's just a
Nice.
beautiful soul. And I highly recommend her work and her book for anyone who's looking to potentially titrate off medication.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the show notes as well. Well, since you answered that question, we get to go to the fun thing. Tell me about the DJing journey.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I, when I was in college, I had a radio show, and
Okay, well, did
yeah,
not know
yeah.
this about you. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So I had I mean, went to a small college, so it's not like anyone was really listening to it, but I had a radio show all
Still.
4 years. And I worked at a really big radio station in New York City at the time. I interned in the studio and worked on their street team. So every Friday, the radio station would have a live DJ. It was like their Friday night thing, right? And you'd be like, no one go near the DJ. Like he has to focus and DJ and mix live, and no one could interrupt him. So I was always fascinated with that. And I always like growing up and going to weddings and bar mitzvahs. I always loved music and I would hate a bad DJ. Something about a bad DJ irritated the crap out of me. Like if they didn't know how to mix, it really infuriated me. So I've always been into that. I've always loved dancing. I never studied dance formally until later. I've taken dance classes in New York City in more recent years, but it's something I've always wanted to learn. And there was someone in college, a friend who had taught me a little bit, some basics, but I never actually pursued it. So it's something I've always wanted to do. So a year and a half ago, I
Has it
said,
been that
F it.
long?
Then I started, well, it started when yeah, when I started DJ school. It was
Wow.
a year and a
Okay.
half
All right.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, a little under a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So I had been researching for a few years DJ schools in New York City, and one of the best things about living in New York is that you could take a class in anything you ever want
Yeah.
to take a class in.
Ever.
There's multiple DJ schools. So I went to Scratch Academy, and yes, that's what it's called, and they have one in LA and they have one in New York. And yeah, I started, it was 2 summers ago. So I started working with them and I fell in love with it. But first of all, I went in not knowing
I can
anything.
tell.
Yeah, I really, really love it. I know nothing. I knew nothing about music theory. First of all, my music catalog and knowledge is pathetic for someone who calls themselves a DJ. Like I like don't know that much music. Alina's always like, "Can you please DJ something other than 80s music? I can't stand this anymore." And I'm like, "But that's what I like." So I went to scratch. I learned all about different genres of music. I still work with my teacher today. I have DJ tests. He'll give me a genre. He says, "Okay, give me a you're gonna do a 10 song set of reggaeton." And I didn't really know anything about reggaeton, so I had to go and he teaches me about the history of reggaeton and teach me the history of hip hop and R&B and dance hall and all this. So it's really, really cool because I learned something new. It's really been so healing for my inner child.
I bet.
Because my fear of messing up, my fear of mistakes, I
Yeah.
have to work through.
Yeah.
Because as my DJ
Yeah.
teacher says, he basically gives me permission to mess up. He's like, "You're gonna make a mistake at every gig. It's
Yeah.
inevitable."
Yeah.
So, and you know, I'm sitting there thinking it's the biggest deal in the world, and no one even cares or notices. Like, I messed up, and no one, everyone's so drunk, they have no idea what's going on. But he said, "You're gonna mess up," and I would get so nervous doing my DJ test in front of him because he's such a good DJ. And I got over that finally of being comfortable with him and practicing and doing the thing over and over again. But yeah, it's just been so fun. It's this really cool blend of more of the science mixed with the art because you have to understand how to DJ, you have to be able to count beats, you have
Mm-hmm.
to understand what types of music blend well together
Mm-hmm.
and scratch and know all of that. A lot of DJs today just press buttons and use the sync button. That's not how I'm taught. So I do the real thing. I'm not on records, but I'm doing the real thing otherwise. And then it's just all about this creativity and having
Mm-hmm.
fun with it. And
Mm-hmm.
when you put together a set, really playing around with the songs and seeing what sounds good and
Yeah.
trusting yourself to know what sounds good and what might not sound good. Now there's this other piece of it that I'm discovering because I have a residency at this local cocktail bar
Mm-hmm.
of before this I'd only done private events,
Mm-hmm.
small private events, engagement parties, retirement parties, birthday parties, things
Right.
like that. But right, you know your audience, you know your demographic, you know what music they want to hear. When you DJ at a bar, you don't know who's going to show up. And you could curate the most perfect set ever, but people there might not like it. And not everyone is going to, oh, that's this people pleasing. Not everyone's going to like your music. It's
Mm-hmm.
inevitable,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So but you do want the majority of the bar to like your music because, you're there to help them and they're driving sales. So I'm learning to navigate that with
Yeah.
people coming up to me and making a request. Or on Halloween, this really drunk girl came up to me and told me that I didn't play inclusive music and told me I was the worst DJ ever and she's never coming back to the bar. And I was like, "What do
Good.
you mean I did?" I was like, "This is a throwbacks night and I've played all the throwback songs. I don't know what you want from me, but I mean, overall, the feedback is people love it. But,
Yeah.
so it's been a lot of work around that, people pleasing, messing up, being okay with making a mistake,
Yeah.
having fun with it, being creative, learning to a good DJ, there's the technical part of it. Good
Mm-hmm.
DJ is really good at blending and mixing and scratching and slamming, but they're also really good at reading the room
Yes.
and knowing what's hitting, what's not working, and being able to come out of that if you go into a slump and coming back up from it and playing around and seeing what works. So
Right.
it's been a journey. It's been a journey. I get very anxious before I DJ, but then I have so much fun with it. And,
Yeah.
because DJing also in my apartment is so different than DJing to a crowd.
Totally.
But my last gig was a week ago, and so many of my friends came out,
I
and
saw that.
it was, yeah, and the bar was packed, not with just my friends, but people came out. People found me on Instagram, this group of moms. messaged me. One woman messaged me. She said that, we're a group of moms and we're going to come out. We're leaving our kids at home with our partners and we're coming out to hear you. And they had the best. There was 10 of them and they had a
So
great
cute.
time. And yeah, the hostess told my friends, ever since Elise started DJing here, it's gotten better. The bar's more packed. So it's been really, really cool. This bar owner totally took a chance on me. He didn't even know, he hadn't even listened to any of my music before he agreed to let me DJ there.
That's
So, but
great.
now they love me. They're like, come, please DJ. When they wanted me more regularly. I was like, I'm too old. I can't be up this late all the time every weekend. But they're like, just come whenever. We'll give you a spot whenever you want it. But
That's
um,
cool.
it's been such a fun journey and so fun. Like, what's better than making people smile and dance?
Yes.
When I see someone sitting in their chair and they're kind of like grooving to the music, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're having fun.
Yes.
They're
Oh,
having fun. So, and then I had an opportunity to blend both of them together when I taught to all 2000 social workers in the New York City Department of Ed. And
mm-hmm.
I curated this 5 hour curriculum and I DJ'd the breakfast registration hour and then taught for 5 hours. And then we ended with an impromptu dance party.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
It
that.
was so fun. It was so, so fun.
I love
So
that.
finding ways to blend mental health with movement and music,
Oh yeah.
I think is so important and powerful. I mean, that's what if I'm ever in a bad mood, I just put on a song and dance,
Yes. Oh, I
you
agree.
know?
There's something so powerful with music.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have any background in music?
Not I wouldn't call it background. I mean, I played piano when I was little and I walked away from that. And then I picked up guitar at like 25 or so. I've
Okay.
always loved music. Actually, here's a funny story. When I was in the seventh grade, for whatever reason, Mr. Berman was the DJ for the dances, and he let me make the DJ playlists. So,
No
so
way.
I would make mixtapes. I would download all the songs illegally on Kazaa and LimeWire,
Yes, yes.
and then I would give him these albums, and I would get to curate parts of the dance. And
That's
so
so fun. So there you
I
go. You have
yeah,
an
so
inner DJ in you too.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Have I
Yeah.
showed you the music that I've started making?
No, you're making
Oh
music?
my God. Okay, once we hit stop on this recording, because I'm not ready to release it, I have an EP coming out on Spotify soon. It
Oh my
is
gosh,
this is
what?
this is gonna blow your mind. So I've been producing music with AI. I figured out how to like make it absolutely incredible. Like
A
you're
lot of
gonna
people are doing that. Yeah.
like when I show people like I showed my therapist this new song I made on Wednesday. She's like, I've been listening to it on repeat. You need to release this on Spotify. Like
I'm so
my
excited.
hairdresser yesterday was just like, "Is this real?" And it's so good. And I don't mean
Oh
to
my
talk
gosh.
myself. I do mean to talk myself up because it's that good. But I'll show you here in a little bit. Um, yeah, and so yeah, I too think music is one of. I mean, it is a literal oral phenomenon. We cannot explain it. It's a feeling that elicits inside of us when we experience it, and it's
Mhm.
deeply healing. And
So healing.
so I agree that when I'm in a type of way or a mood, if I don't know what to do, and this was a big practice when Chester died, when my dog passed,
Mhm.
music got me into my body in ways that was familiar and safe that otherwise was horrible feeling.
Yeah.
Like being in my
Yeah.
body in grief was like, no way, bro. And it was like, okay, dance. And I have videos. I haven't posted these ones either yet, but I have a video of me dancing in the garage. And like 15 minutes in, I just go into a full on rage. And I'm like, there was a couch in the garage at the time, and I'm just beating these pillows after all this movement of dancing. And then I
Wow.
sit down and I bawl my eyes out for like 5 minutes straight. And then I'm just like, and just like shut down. And
Yes.
the somatic invitation that movement or that music brings is one I it's unlike anything else. It's its own
It
thing.
really is. It really is. I have patients dance sometimes in the office. Well, I mean, I do a lot
Yeah.
of movement with them in general, but
Yeah.
sometimes dancing, and it's so magical. It's so uplifting. I saw my cousin got married last month, and my 90-year-old grandmother, who is constantly like, I can't do that. I can't walk. I can't move. I can't just, she was on the dance floor 80% of the night.
I guess saw you post about this.
I mean, yeah, like there is so much magic with, right? You have all these people dancing and you're having fun, and she's with her loved ones, and
Yeah.
I'm like, where I have no idea where this energy came from into this woman, but something magical happened when she was on
Yeah.
that dance floor,
Yeah.
you know? And so yeah,
So
it's been
cute.
so fun. I hope to grow it, the DJ thing. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens and where it goes. I'm pretty all in. Like I
Good.
have weekly lessons now. I bought
Good.
all the fancy equipment. Like it's been really fun. It's also been really nice to kind of be at this place where I can give my gift to myself because in the
Yeah.
past I was like I don't, you know, I didn't really have the money or the time to do it. It was something I was really saving up for and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like let me invest in myself in a hobby because I had never really given that to myself before.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I'm so glad you're doing that for yourself. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking about it.
Yeah. Okay, a couple rapid fire questions, then we'll wrap up here.
Yes.
Um, where do we want to start? Okay. So if Elise had a message for the world, what would it be?
Find what brings you peace, a sense of peace and joy, and pursue it.
Mm, I love that. Reminds me of a experience I had once. My mom, she's first generation immigrant, right? And I quit my corporate job, corporate America, Fortune 50, all that. And she looked at me, she was so mad. She looked at me, she said, Scott, if it's not success you're going after, what are you looking for? And I said, peace.
Peace.
And she just stopped dead in her tracks. She didn't know what to say. What are
Yeah.
you gonna say? Oh, you don't need peace, you need success? Like she was just like, oh yeah, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, I am a manifester, so my alignment is, you know, my self is peace. I think it's called like the alignment or
Yeah.
the way you do things or how you
Yeah.
know you're in
Yeah.
the right path is peace.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, isn't that what most of us want? Is just a sense of peace?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Second question. What does it mean to be human?
Embracing all emotions that come up for us.
Mm,
And I think that being human is about being with all experiences and all emotions that come up for us, recognizing that our soul is just in this body and there's such a greater intelligence both within us and outside of us, and that we're all connected and finding a sense of connection to ourselves, finding connection to others, to a higher power, to source, whatever you want to call it, divine, like you had said earlier, all these different words, and recognizing that life is going to bring us an array of experiences and we may not like all of them, but they're all here for us.
mhm,
They're all here and grow and that life is our medicine, that our
mm,
life is our medicine.
mm. I love that. I love that. Last question. Where can people find more about you and what you're up to?
Yes, they can find me on Instagram, TikTok, now YouTube, because I just started a YouTube
I
channel.
saw that.
Uh, yes, I'm excited about that. And my website. My Instagram and TikTok is nerdy therapist, but nerdy like neurology, NEURDY underscore therapist. The YouTube is me, Elyse Schunkewitz, if you just search that. Um, and my
And
website, Elyse
right.
Schunkewitz, lcsw.com. But that's too much to that'll be
We'll
in the
link
show
it. We'll link
notes.
it all in the show notes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
or nerdytherapy.com actually too, with the NEURDY
Great.
therapy.com. Same page.
Amazing. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. And
Yes.
it was an absolute
Thank
treat having you.
you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes, same.
Thank you to the audience for the time and attention and presence here today and the listening, both to Elise's story and everything she had to offer. And until next time, aloha.